to our sustainability sessions here at World Sailing. I'm Rebecca, I work in sustainability at World Sailing. Today, we are super lucky to be joined by Unplastify, Tati and Jasmine, and they're going to speak about how they fight plastic pollution in Argentina and how they've gone about their journey to eliminate plastic from their operations. So in terms of how this links to World Sailing, we have the targets in our Agenda 2030 to abolish use of single-use plastics at all events and encourage that to be done at national events as well. So hopefully through the ideas we gain from Unplastify, maybe we can inspire some change at a national level and adopt that into our events as well. Okay, so without further ado, I'll hand over to Tati and Jasmine. Hopefully you guys can share your screen and everything.
Are you speaking from Argentina? And where in Argentina are you?
We are in Buenos Aires. Hello, nice to meet you. I'm Tati.
I'm Jasmine. Nice to meet you.
I'm trying to share my screen. So here it goes, I think. Okay, yeah, good. We're set to go. Yes, so nice to meet you all. I'm Tati, one of the co-founders of Unplastify, and we're gonna be sharing a little bit about our journey. First of all, how this adventure of Unplastify began. What did we learn throughout the journey? What do we do actually? And what is the Unplastify challenge for sailing clubs, which is specifically what we do with the sailing world. So let's start it. So how did the adventure begin? It actually started here when I was working as a director of a recycling center in Brooklyn, and I was literally surrounded by these mountains of plastic, seeing them through every single day. And I started wondering what was happening with all this flow of materials going through this recycling center, and especially what was happening with all the plastics that are not lucky enough to end up in a recycling center. So this was 2017. So I started wondering and I started inquiring and Googling what's happening, and the oceans came up. At that point, I have started sailing a little bit during the weekends with my husband, and we came up with the crazy idea of sailing back to Argentina from New York on a sailboat and seeing what is these plastics in the ocean with our own eyes. So this is how the journey started. It took us 6 months. From New York, we went to Bermuda, to the Azores, and to Gibraltar. We spent a month and a half waiting for the hurricane season to end, to set sail to the South Atlantic. So we went to Canary Island, Cape Verde, then Fernando de Noronha in Brazil, Salvador de Bahia, and Buenos Aires. So it took us these 2 Atlantic crossings. We were between 2 and 4 crew members. Yeah, and today it seems really far away, but at the moment it was a bit crazy because I wasn't an expert sailor, really far from that. At that point I haven't spent a full night sailing, so I was really inexperienced, and it was really challenging for me. This is my boat home. You can see it's called Funky. The Sunhamn is the former owner's name. So we named it after a rock song of an Argentine artist that is Charlie Garcia. So the boat is called Funky. It's a Halberassi. It's a 36 feet sailboat, very rough and robust. So it kept us safe throughout this journey. Of course, well, if you're here, most of you are sailors, you know that sailing is not about drinking martinis on deck. It's the opposite. So many times, of course, we face different challenging situations. Especially, we had a tropical storm in the coast of Africa that was really, really scary for 40 hours with winds above 40 knots. That was really, really scary. And also at some point in the North Atlantic, we were, I think, 3-4 days before getting to the Azores, and suddenly we felt as if we touched ground. So of course, as you know, there's always one on shift. Our friend Pablo was on shift. We were trying to sleep on this washing machine that moves all the time nonstop. But when we felt this touching ground, we woke up because we realized there's something wrong, right? So we went to deck and we asked Pablo what happened, and he told us that we just hit a whale. So apparently whales sleep on the surface, and we clearly hit the tail of a whale or something, because the boat, we inspected everything, nothing was broken, the whale swam away, so the whale was okay too. But yeah, that was really scary because the whale is bigger than the boat. It can really harm the boat, make a big hole. So that was really challenging. And on top of that, I get seasick in cabs. So imagine my seasickness, especially during the first few nights. It was really, really challenging for me. But I was really determined to see with my own eyes what was the reality of plastics in the middle of nowhere. So thankfully, I got lended a device that allowed me to take samples. So when the weather was nice, like in this picture, I was able to take out this device, which is called the Manta Troll. And it's a device that we put down the water, and it filters the water through a hole the size of my hand. And everything that goes through that hole gets collected at the end of this kind of 3-meter sock, more or less, for you to picture it. So everything that I have in my hand is what we collected in one sample. So we would take it out, we would clean it out, and we would separate all the pieces of plastic that we are able to see. Of course, everything was a bit of algae, little crabs, a little bit of different little creatures, and also we found plastic on every single sample. So this is how a sample looks like, more or less. But here, even you can see how among all these kind of gross material, you are able to see little bits of blue, white, even fibers. And even that black thing that you see, that was also plastic. So what we realized when we counted everything is that in every sample we took, we found plastics. And we would segment it according to the size, to the type, whether if it was a filament, fragment, film, foam, and we would classify it and report it back to the nonprofit that lended us the device for them to report aggregated. So it was amazing to see how this material does not disappear. So it's ending up in the most remote places on Earth. Even when we thought the water was clean, pristine, and we were not going to find any plastic, we would. And even other days, we would see pieces of plastic, like old nets or even balloons, like random pieces of plastic floating in the middle of nowhere, days and nights from land. So that was really the aha moment for us, and just being able to see that, it was like, okay, now we need to learn more about the problem. So what is it that we learned throughout this trip? Because along the way, we also interviewed different experts. So we were able to interview scientists, policymakers, companies, all these people working to fix this problem. So we learned from the different aspects. The first thing that we realized and that we learned is that the human relationship with plastic is out of control, because we believe that it's this relationship that we got out of control. It's not bad itself, but it's completely overwhelming, no? So there are 11 million tons of plastic ending up in the ocean every year. This means more or less 1 truck entering the ocean per minute. And this is not plastic that we are throwing into the ocean. It's plastic that is escaping waste management systems everywhere in the world and ending up in nature. And for you to give a sense of this, in 11 million tons of plastic, it's like 1,000 Eiffel Towers a year. So it's insane. And this is just one study that estimated, because it's not that we have real data on the amount of plastic that is getting into the ocean. But after this study that is from 2022, there are estimations that it's even higher, the number. So what we realize is that the problem is not the material itself, it's its use and abuse. So globally, each person consumes 45 kilos of plastic, which I think it's 100 pounds of plastic per year. So this is like the weight of a fridge every year, every single one of us consuming, you know, this plastic, and 42% of that is packaging, which means that we are throwing it away almost immediately, sometimes after a week or a few months. But we are using this indestructible material as a disposable item. And this is the problem for us, that we are completely surrounded by plastic. We see it in every product that we use, like our clothes, our food is packaged in plastic, everything, all of the accessories, the backpack, the cars, everything has plastic. But the problem is not the material. It's the fact that we are using this indestructible material as a disposable item. At least we need to start there. So the last part is that recycling is not the magic solution. I have been working in recycling for 10, 12 years before starting Unplastify. And I thought that that was the solution, but I realized that it's very, very complex. And unfortunately, recycling rates are really low. And this is global estimate of only 9% of plastic gets recycled. And only 9%. So this is very, very, very low. The rest of it, it's either burned, buried, or dumped in nature, or escaping into nature. So yes, we need to reinforce recycling. We need to make it better. But we cannot rely on recycling to fix this problem, clearly, no? So we think that we need to tackle this problem at the source, at the beginning, upstream. So we need to reduce the amount of plastic that we use in the first place. One thing that I learned throughout this trip is that there's this contradiction with plastics. And a scientist that I interviewed, and Andrés Cosar from the University of Cádiz in Spain, he told me this story. He told me a story about carey turtles. For any scientist in the room, this is not a carey turtle. It just looks nice in the picture to explain the story. But I don't know if you know, but carey turtles back in the day, they used to be hunted for the value of the shells. No? So we would make accessories like combs and other accessories with that. When plastic came in and we started making combs and accessories with plastic, the carey turtles were super happy, of course, right? Because all this pressure on them started disappearing because it was too expensive to hunt turtles for their carey shells. So what at some point was very good for these turtles, later on, we started using it so much, these materials, so excessively and so disposably that it started going back against the turtles again, entangling them. They would confuse them with food, and they would ingest this plastic, and they would get hurt. So what was once a good idea is now a challenge, a problem for the turtles. And this is the same with us. So plastic got us here and helped us develop in a very, very interesting way and great way. But we are using it too much, too excessively, and too disposably. So this is what we believe, that the problem is coming back to us as a boomerang. Because why is this a problem? It's a problem not only because it affects a lot of species, like I think it's more than 700 species already being tracked that are being affected by this material. But also it's coming back through the food chain to us. Now there's a recent study that all proteins sold in the US contain microplastics. All of them. It's not only fish, it's everything. So at some point, this problem is getting back to us. What seems to be further away in the middle of the ocean, it's in our daily lives, and it's affecting our organisms and how we operate and how we function. So this is why we believe that it's the same as being on a boat. Imagine that you have holes on a boat and you start with buckets, taking it out, taking it out, taking it out. But what should we be doing instead? Shouldn't we be trying to find those holes and make them smaller, seal them, making sure that we don't get more water to come in? Well, this is kind of like an analogy that we find to explain why we shouldn't be just focusing on recycling. We should go at the source of a problem and see, why are we throwing all these amounts of this material into the market, into society? We should cut and reduce that amount of plastic that gets in the system in the first place. And then also focus on cleaning up, recycling, and everything. But the main part is to close the holes, right? That's what we would do in a boat. So what do we do at Unplastify today based on these learnings? Unplastify today, it's a social enterprise certified B Corporation, and our mission is to minimize the use of disposable plastics in the world to fight plastic pollution and restore the oceans. And how do we do it? We basically accelerate systemic solutions, which means we don't just rely on individual actions. We pursue systemic solutions. So we empower individuals at different organizations, companies, schools, government to take action systemically, which means to implement strategies that affect many other people to reduce their use of plastic. So it's not just awareness. It's not just, oh, I will bring my bag to the supermarket. It's about how can I install a new policy, whether it's in my school, whether it's in my place of work, or in my city, government, community. How can I implement actions that affect and unplastify the people of many others? Because we want to create the new normal, right? And we do this with educational programs, we do this with companies, and we do this with public policy, with governments. And this is our impact so far. Our goal is to unplastify 1 million people by 2025 through this systemic change. We are 66.5% there with this goal of 1 million people. We consider one person unplastified when they reduce 20% of their plastic use. And we calculate these based on all the plastic that we effectively avoid with our systemic strategies. So we bring these, not counting people, but counting all the tons of plastics avoided, and then we translate into how many people are we unplastifying with this. Strategies vary a lot, from bags to bottles to packaging and many, many other single-use plastics that these 662 unplastify strategies we develop, whether it's with companies, with schools, or with governments. And the beneficiary organizations are more than 300, and again varies between education. Education includes schools and sailing clubs, governments, and companies. And what is the Unplastify Challenge for Sailing? And this is specifically the program that we have developed with the support of 11-hour racing, and we have been developing it since 2019 or 2019, I think. So since the very beginning of Unplastify, we have been developing this program with sailing clubs. Not only because, well, I am myself a sailor, Jasmine is a sailor too, and we love sailing, we love the ocean, but also because we believe that it's a community that naturally connects with water. So we should all be called to protect it, right? Because most of us, we all saw plastic while sailing, and it's our playground. We want to protect it. We want to keep it clean and safe. So that's why we are focusing so much on the sailing clubs. And what does this program mean? So it's an invitation to all sailors to get involved, to take action. And we connect different clubs and sailing community members from Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Peru, and Uruguay, all these Latin American countries. And we have engaged with more than 50 sailing clubs in Latin America. And this is a summary of our impact. Yeah, we have reached more than 120 sailing clubs, almost 10,000 people. We had almost 30 speakers at our podcast series. We reached 9 countries in Latin America. We developed 36 Unplastify strategies for clubs and championships. And we avoided 1.5 million pounds of plastic through these strategies. So this is plastic that were effectively avoided. It's not promises. It's not to the future what we can avoid. It's plastics that we effectively avoided with these strategies. And it has many different components. The On Board with Unplastify, Unplastify Training, Unplastify Clinic, Championships, and the Optimist Contest. And I will go through them quickly for you to have a sense of what is it about. The On Board with Unplastify, it's a series of talks with role models from the sailing community. We realized that we needed to bring the conversation to raise this awareness. And doing that with conversations that we will have with top sailors from the region, Olympic sailors, really very good reference from the sailing community. So we have done Zoom live sessions. We have created podcasts, YouTube videos, blog posts for this message to be to engage with the entire sailing community. We would talk a little bit about whatever the topic was about. For example, there was one about Olympic sailing, another one about foiling, another one about the SSL, another one about ocean sailing, and we had one Uruguayan guy that was part. He won actually, right? Yes. The mini transat. The mini transat this past edition, Fede. So we had like these people talking about what they do, but also reflecting about the issue of plastics and how it affects life in in the ocean or with sailboats, and how they can contribute as well. So all these sessions are live. I'm sorry that they're in Spanish, but they're very exciting, and maybe you can read the blog posts and translate them, because they're very, very interesting conversations with many different sailors getting together for these sessions. The Unplastify training, it's the program that we run for sailing clubs. So sailing clubs can join, and they would sign up to our own app, which is an app that we developed to run our challenges. So there we would give them assignments. They would be able to share their progress, what they're doing. They can like others, they can comment, they can engage with other participants, and they would get points for their actions. So we would have sessions, we would have a monitoring of their progress, but they would get together in this platform to engage and to exchange with other sailing clubs in the region. So this is a 2-month program, and it basically brings them the necessary tools to unplastify their sailing clubs. And the assignment, the main objective is that each sailing club chooses one single-use plastic to avoid throughout the program, and they would develop one strategy. Why we say that it has to be one? Because if we want to do everything at once, we would probably find more challenges. But if we just focus on one, whether if it's, let's eliminate plastic bottles, let's eliminate bags, let's eliminate, like if we just focus on one specific plastic that we can avoid, it's more doable, and they see the impact right away, and then they can replicate it for other plastics. More than 50 sailing local change makers participated in this training. Sailing clubs from Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Peru, and Uruguay. And it has been really exciting to see the engagement and the results. They would have bi-weekly tasks, working hours where they can join and consult us, and they would earn points, and there would be a ranking. So as we all like to compete, like if we are sailors, we probably like the competition aspect. So they would also be competing, and the finalists would win the support to implement their strategies, monetary support. So if they would, there was one really sailing club that it was really small, and they wanted to start offering smoothies and like natural drinks instead of soda. So they wanted to buy like a fridge to have everything. Exactly. So everything they needed to implement their ideas, we would support them with that, for them to have no excuses and to implement it, which was exciting to see also the implementation. Then we would have the Unplastify Clinic, which this is more of a direct support to selected sailing clubs to implement their strategies. This is more like a consulting service that out of the training, we would select certain sailing clubs, whether it was for the potential of their projects or their commitment. We would select these specific clubs, and we would offer them this consultancy for them to go deeper into their strategies and implementation. We would also give them financial support to implement their strategies, and we would present to the boards of their clubs for the approvals. Everything would be more formal and yeah, in foreseeing this impact and long-term solutions. Exactly. We would also we develop like a guideline for plastic for sailing clubs for them to implement. So they would have how to engage with the community of a club. In different examples, they can do cleanups, talks, workshops, and we would give them guidelines specifically for that, how they can implement measurements of like what are the key focus areas to act on, and how can they communicate all these to their sailing communities within their clubs. So all these we develop on a booklet that we distributed. And then we realized that a place where a lot of these sailors get together, celebrate sailing, and enjoy are championships. So we needed to be in person in many championships, not only being there, talking about the issue, engaging with the youth on different activities, but also working prior to the championships with the management in order to make these championships free of single-use plastics. This is really hard for Latin American countries. Let me explain. it was basically this consulting service again, like working hand on hand with the organizers, with their suppliers, many times supplying the alternative products, whether if it was for the cafeteria or dispensers with water, filters, reusable bottles, communication pieces for everybody to know to bring their own kit, to know where to dispose what, to know the impact of these actions. And also we would engage them with many different activities, especially the youngest, because we know that that is important too, to spread out the word, for them to take these ideas to their own clubs in many different things. We have covered, I think at this point, it's 7 or 8 championships. We have another one, a large one coming up in February. And this December, we have the Optimist World Championship in Argentina.
Yes.
So we will probably cover that one too. We're very excited because in some of these championships, we have sailors from different countries. We had the Moth World Championship, but it wasn't as large as the Opti World Championship will be. So we're really excited that we'll be part of that one. And this is some of the impact that we had. It's almost 8,000 people activated, reached with our activities, contests, games. They would earn points, they would earn gifts, reusable bags, reusable bottles, cups, and many different things. 1.7 thousand pounds of plastic avoided, and sailors from 7 different countries. We also developed, and this is the almost last part, we wanted to engage even further with the Optimist community because we realized that they were the youngest and the more aware of the issue, and also we wanted them to be the change makers within their own communities, within their sailing clubs. So that is why we developed this contest for Plastify ideas for these younger sailors, and we invited them to present kind of like a TikTok video, like a very short video with their ideas on how to unplastify their own club. So just one idea, very specific, detailed, and we collaborated with the Federation of Yachting in Argentina, and they were part of this contest, and we gave them to the winner. He got an Optimist sail. There you see the smile of the little sailor with his brand new sail, and many different coaches were involved. We got different videos, and it was really exciting just to see how they would develop the ideas, because it's key that the ideas come from them. So they have ownership on the ideas. A little bit extra, we ended up engaging with the Coast Guards in Argentina to develop a sustainable sailing guidebook. This is not just for the youth, it's for general sailing, and it has different approaches to sailing, and how can we all, whether if it's hydration and food, or onboard cleaning, or vessel maintenance, or waste management on board, how can we do better at all these different aspects and really avoid plastics, be more aware, more sustainable? It's not only about plastics. That's why we collaborated with the Coast Guards to have more information from their scientists and also from their regulations. So we put all these together in a very simple and friendly booklet for all the sailors, and we are distributing these to all the different sailing clubs that have been working with us. And this is where we presented. Look at all those officials with their uniforms, where we presented this guidebook. It was really exciting to collaborate with an institution like the Coast Guards. So it was really interesting project, and we are promoting it now, distributing it. Some of the key lessons that we had throughout this journey, and we are 2 minutes from hearing your questions and comments. But this last part, I wanted to share that we realized that the in-person activities engage much more. So when we started participating championships, that had a huge impact in our reach. Before that, well, it was COVID. So at some point we were running this program throughout COVID, believe it or not. It was all online. We would engage and work with sailing clubs and thinking about internal policies and seeing how can, once we are back to the clubs, how can we do? But really, when we got back to in-person, seeing us in real life, that really had an impact. Then another second key lesson that we had is that the value of time. That means that with several relationships that we had, it wasn't from one day to the other. It wasn't that a sailing club immediately got everything. Oh yes, we will change everything. We will do it better tomorrow and from tomorrow on. No. So it took us several years to really change their operations. Now they know how it is. They incorporated the changes. At the beginning, we would supply everything. We would give them all the alternative materials, everything. Now they are internalizing these new operations, whether if it's for their clubs, for their championships, but it takes time because it's not just a policy that comes from the board. Sometimes it just takes time and knowledge to implement these ideas, which may seem really simple, but sometimes it just isn't, right? From engaging with the cafeteria people that work at the cafeteria and explaining them why this year we are not giving reusable, like disposable cups, and we are using this deposit scheme for, you know, the cups that we use for them, the kids to bring them back, for them to be reused and clean. So all these different strategies have their time to get incorporated. So we can say that now, after 3 or 4 years of covering the biggest championship in Argentina, there are 2 big championships we've been covering for 3 years, both. One is in Mar del Plata, the other in Buenos Aires. Now it's getting there, and we are getting to the point at which they don't need us anymore, hopefully soon, because that's the key for us, that this change is systemic. And this is the third part. Like, it's really important that this does not rely on just a few individuals. So we want these individuals to be the systemic change makers. So these individuals to install new operations, new policies, so new norms. That's what we want, and we're really what we try to pursue, and we've been trying to push for. And lastly, collaboration. For us, just collaborating, bringing together different organizations, clubs, companies. Like, this is our set of partners. We have worked with more than 60 companies, 10 countries. We work with National Geographic, with B Corps, with 11 Hour Racing, and we think that mixing and bringing together different strategies, different ideas from the different sectors really enrich the conversation, and yeah, and ultimately the impact and the strategies implemented in reality. So this is more or less what we do. I hope you find it interesting, and I'm happy to answer your questions, your comments. And we would love to see and pursue opportunities to collaborate with you. And yeah, if you want to share a little bit more about who's on this call, for us to also know more about you and potential collaborations, we'd be happy to. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tati. That was amazing to hear the journey that you guys went on from sailing from New York to Buenos Aires, and how it's led to this journey. Has anyone got any questions? Feel free to turn your mics on or pop it in the chat. Yeah, I see you have your hand up, John. Feel free to turn your mic on. Or type it in the chat. So they've got a question. Oh, amazing. Colin thinks it's interesting. Thank you so much, Colin. Joanna, I see you've got your hand up. Do you want to take your mic off and ask your question? Hopefully you have a question. I think you might do.
And maybe in the meantime, if the rest of you want to share in the chat, I talk a lot about us. I would love to learn a little bit more about you. Maybe where you're joining from, if you're in different places. I don't know, what's your role in the sailing community, whether you're an amateur, you like sailing, you're a professional sailor, you're a coach. I don't know, I'm curious to see who's on the other side, if you want to share.
Hello?
Hello, Soren.
No, I'll just say that I really appreciate all the stuff you're doing, and it's a great presentation. And what we're doing in Denmark, in the Royal Danish Yacht Club, whenever we have regatta, just one small thing is that we are supplying drinking bottles, reusable. And they all look nice with a nice logo and sponsors on and so forth to all the participants. And also, I think that we have found a way. In some classes, you need to have bow numbers on the boat, and that has been last year. We basically put the bow numbers was placed on the boat by professionals, i.e., they knew how to put them, and they were checked every day when they came in, and if they were a little bit loose, we changed them. Now I think that we may have found another way to, together with North Sails, to produce some bow numbers that cannot fall off, and then we'll take them off when they come in. And so I mean, there's still a lot of things to do in the plastic area, but I think that as long as we can use, because the question is, should we use other material for example, for drinking bottles? And the point is that we had one regatta or two, we may have some alu, but the point is that they are not very good because you cannot have them in the boat. And the plastic is soft, but of course you have to design them in a way that they are attractive to keep. And I don't know whether you treat designer plastic reusable bottles as a kind of part of the plastic-free world.
That is so true. Thank you for sharing, Soren. Yeah, one thing that we realize is that in every championship, there's a set of sponsors. And so all the sponsorship materials change every year. Whether
that's the other
it's
side, yes.
The buoys, the flags, everything. And we were like, well, how can we do some of these things in a way that we can reuse them every year, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Small things like that, but at the end of the day, it's a huge impact.
Yeah, well, I think the bottles, well, I know that everybody wants to keep it because they are quite attractive. So, so they, in as far as the buoys and so forth, I think that we have another thing that we've done is that we have self-positioning buoys now that are big, round. Of course, they are plastic. We can't help it. But the point is that they don't disappear. They have a little engine in it, electrical, so they always are in the right spot, and they are not cheap. So nobody will throw them out. I can tell you.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, I mean, we said that material, the plastic is not the problem. The material, it's when we use it disposably, right? So if it's well done, very resistant, expensive, and we want to keep it, you know, and it doesn't
Yes.
get lost. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Good. So we'll continue with that. Until we find another material.
So there was one question in the chat. I don't know if you can see it, Tati. But John asks if anyone's doing something similar in the US.
I don't know exactly. I know that 11th Hour Racing has been working a lot on their efforts, their partnership with the Ocean Race. Actually, they sponsored like the winning team and all the different.
Yeah, their team won this year.
Yeah, their team won this year, and but also I met with the operations manager of their team, and this guy who you can imagine that he was like a really like a sailor logistics genius and like a complete. He was so committed with making, you know, everything really well, good decisions, and so the entire team was committed to making this sustainable. And also at every stop of the race, I know that they made a huge effort also at every location to gather the proper suppliers to make these stops, which became like festivals at every stop. She was part of a couple of them, Jasmine, and they made huge efforts to minimize their negative impact. So I know that they've been working on that. I don't specifically know of an organization like us that works with different clubs throughout the US. Probably there is. I would check in the grantees of 11th Hour Racing, because probably if there is, it's working collaboratively with them. They're supporting these type of initiatives.
Yeah, 11th Hour Racing are massive champions in sustainability in the sport, and they obviously sponsor our award as well. So yeah, they're making massive waves in sustainability as well and sailing. Cool. Thank you so much, Diane, for joining. Glad you found it useful. And yes, I will share contact details with the team so you can reach out as and when you have your questions.
Yeah, Jasmine is sharing her email now, so
Perfect.
whenever
There you go.
you contact us, you can check our website. We have it's in English, so we have Spanish and English. You can find it in English, and you will see more about our programs and whatever you can think of. We would love to collaborate with you guys in different places.
Okay.
Amazing.
Great, and well done.
Cool.
Well done.
Thank
you.
you very much for joining.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.